says, if I was a United fan, I'd be worried that their first option was a striker. When the first thing to fix in a broken team is always in midfield, since the defense and the attack starts there. What goals is a striker going to get without any? Well, this is the thing. Where you're wrong, my friend. If you look, it depends how you want to view service. If you look at the XG improvement in Man United under Amorim, it's massive. We're out creating our opponents almost week in, week out. We're not finishing our dinner. So that would suggest, no disrespect to your super chat, I appreciate it. But for me, that's what they're looking at. We're also looking at a midfielder this January as well. So Edison is someone we're looking at toe-to-toe with Man City.
Anyone who doesn't think United's attacking that department, the attacking department, if you don't think is the worst thing in this team right now, you're either, no offense, you're either stupid or you just don't watch games. And I hope it's the second one. Because I wouldn't wish on anyone to watch United games and look at the team and like, you know what? The first thing they need to fix, fix that defense. The attack is fine. No chance.
This also says, if someone explained to me how in the current striker shortage, no big team went for Osimhen besides Galatasaray. Is he really good as fans think?
No, many teams have went in for Osimhen. It's not just Galatasaray, but the issue is Napoli and Lyon, those two clubs are infamously known for being the toughest negotiators in Europe, and they wanted a whole lot of money. And now that the money has been reduced by almost 40 million, I think you will find a lot of more clubs interested in
true. Very true. Very, very true. 7-inch Destroyer says, will Colleen ever be back on the terrace? In fairness, I spoke to Colleen yesterday. She's still obviously traveling and doing her thing. I'm not going to reveal where she is because that's her private information, but she will be back on the terrace. Don't worry. Terry, does the length of Amorim's contract worry you? No, it doesn't. 2.5 years is fine. It doesn't worry me at all because I believe what Man United are building is a club structure that will live beyond any head coach. So if you get 2 years in and he isn't the guy, it's very cheap and easy to get rid of him with 6 months remaining and then bring in somebody similar who is better at that job. I'd rather that than a 5-6 year deal. You get 2 years in and you've suddenly got £25 million to pay out. I'd rather do it that way. And 18 months in, go, wow, we're looking amazing. There's another 2 or 3 years. It's a much safer option, and it's a better one financially. We have hemorrhaged almost £100 million in sacking managers. It's one of the reasons we're in financial trouble. It's the correct thing to do, and it's different to what we've done before. Therefore, I back it. Ronin here says, patience is apparently the enemy of standards. No, that's just people that are stupid. You can have high standards, but you got to have patience. It's as simple as that. LB can attest to it. LB started in a gym a little while back getting fit. Like, he has standards of where he wants to get to, but he ain't stupid enough to think he can do press-ups and push-ups or sit-ups all week and then suddenly look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He understands it's going to take time, right?
I suppose so. Yeah, or you could hop on gear and then speed the process up if you wanted to. You know what I mean?
We could be a club that financially dopes and speeds the process up.
You could
do what Mudryk does and just take the taxi.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy, Terry? If we do the Chelsea approach, I don't know if we're financially capable of doing that because I don't know what the rules were behind it for Chelsea to do that. But if we go in the first January and we spend all that money that Chelsea did, everyone's going to be like, oh, look at them. They're clueless. They're just signing. They're wasting money again.
You can't do it anyway. 2 reasons.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't even know if we can because
they've changed all the rules so that you can't do those long contracts anymore, especially if you're in Europe, which we are. So we couldn't sign players on 8-year deals and spread the cost over 8 years. And secondly, Chelsea weren't in the financial difficulties at the beginning of that process that we're in now. So yeah, and even if we had someone worth 500,
didn't they change the hotel rule as well? You can't sell hotels anymore, apparently.
We don't have any hotels to sell because unlike Roman Abramovich, the Glazers haven't been investing in the local infrastructure for the last 20 years, buying up land and properties. We have nothing to sell other than the stadium, and we ain't doing that. Where was this fury when the media was against everything the new Chelsea owners did? You're part of the media. We're not part of the media. The Football Terrace is not part of the mainstream media, my friend, in any way, shape, or form.
And also, Terry has actually been the fairest to Chelsea on this app.
I have. I just have.
Wrong person to call out. You should have called me out instead.
There we go. I'm definitely not part of the media as well, my friend, because I wouldn't be on here saying shit prick if I was part of the mainstream media. Thank you for muting that, KJ. Could be wrong, but did Salah and Mane come to Liverpool as world-class winning players?
No, we didn't sign any world-class player. The only world-class player we signed is Thiago Alcantara and Fernando Torres my whole lifetime.
I think you signed top-class Champions League players in terms of their ability when you broke the world record on goalkeeper and centre-back. I think you can't say that you didn't do big there.
No, I'm saying, but he said world-class. World-class is like Thiago level when we signed them.
Alisson wasn't world-class?
No, Alisson was top-class, not world-class.
Are you saying Osimhen is world-class then?
Osimhen is definitely world class.
Okay,
Who the hell is the strikers in world football right now?
I'm just asking a question. Relax.
Yeah, because here's the thing, Terry. You need to understand the market dictates a lot of this as well. You know, name your top 5 strikers in Europe right now. Who?
Yeah. He wouldn't be world class 15 years ago because the market was on madness.
Yeah, I agree with you. But look right now, Haaland, Kane, who else?
Yeah,
Lewandowski is still one of the best strikers in Europe, and the guy's like 37 years old, man.
I don't define someone as world class based on if they're one of the best in the world now. I base it on a long standing. So I still compare them against world class strikers from 15, 20 years ago. So
there's not many world class players about them.
Yeah, theoretically, there could be 0 world class players. Theoretically, in my eyes.
Then using your logic, Terry, football is screwed because then we can barely name 10 world-class players in the whole world, maybe.
Hang on. Sorry. You don't need to have world-class players per se to enjoy football. Just because footballers aren't as good as, say, R9 doesn't mean that, football's finished. It's swings and roundabouts.
Okay, would you say Mo is world-class?
Mo Salah, yes.
KDB, Rodri, Haaland.
Okay. KDB was, I think his legs are gone now, but he was, yes.
Rodri, Haaland.
Haaland is, yes.
Okay, so where do you draw the line? Let's say so with Trent, would you consider him world class?
A world class right back, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I see your logic. So, but the thing is, for me, comparing it to players 15 years ago would be unfair to the players of this generation because they're just not as good.
No, I understand. I think they are and they're not. I think KDB could have held his own.
There's a few. There's obviously a couple of exceptions, but there's just hardly any.
Yeah, but if I think about all the players that I would call world class right now, just in the last few years in the Prem, I think Mo Salah, I think Trent, Trent might have played a different position 20 odd years ago. He probably would have played right midfield. I think Haaland would have been scoring goals in every era of football I've ever watched. So
Agreed.
I don't know. KDB would have held his own, like I've said. Mo Salah would have done. Van Dijk would have been a fantastic defender no matter what was going on. Who else am I thinking?
Alisson probably from the Prem.
Alisson. His shot stopping is shot stopping. At the end of the day, in fact, the sweeper. Imagine these sweeper keepers, like when Manuel Neuer first started doing it. Imagine what some of these guys could do back then. I mean, when you're who else is world class? Give me some names. I'm just trying to think who you guys think are world class as well. Like,
I think that's it. No one from Arsenal or your club or Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean.
That's probably it.
Maybe the only one from 5 years ago at Chelsea that comes to world-class level is probably Kante.
Yeah, Kante.
Kante.
I'll give you an example. But if I give you an example, a young player at Chelsea, Caicedo, as a young player, would have been a good midfielder in any generation of the Prem. Quick, amazing on the ball, got strength. I don't think he would have been a trash player if he was younger.
Yeah, Caicedo has world-class potential. He just not
I'm just looking at potential there, and I think.
Sam, that proves the point though, because Caicedo is probably now one of the greatest DMs in world football.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a bit older than you guys. I remember having debates sitting down on Super Sundays with my mates at United, Liverpool. We'd sit there and we'd say this was in the noughties, and we'd go, "How many world-class players both teams got?" And when you sit in debate, most people would go 2 or 3 in each team. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily. There's that less. You have to have a wider view.
But if you go back and take like the 4th and 5th player who you didn't quite put in the world class category then and brought them now, they would now be world class and probably the best example.
I get you.
If you took Edison Cavani back in the day, was a great striker, right? But he was never up there with like the best names of the best. If you put him in now, he'd arguably some people would have him as the best striker in world football.
Oh,
he'd be top 3 strikers quite easily by most people's standards.
I think
top 5, 100%.
I think that's because though we go through these periods of what we want to train our players to do, and I think it's suddenly, for instance, how many defenders in academies right now are being trained to play against wingers that go on the outside and use their strong foot, like a right footer on the right hand side? Everything's you're going up against an inverted player, so we are going to have a generation of fullbacks that come through who are less competent defending on the outside as they are on the inside because it's what they're being asked to do. There was a time when number 10s were killing it in the Premier League because it was a kind of a new role. And then suddenly 10 started doing less and less well because the academy players and the younger players are being trained and adapted to how to mark and nullify one. So suddenly to a point where people playing in the number 10 roles weren't as effective. And I think there's an argument to say, are they just getting worse? Or are number 10s on the role they play worked out and you kind of work out how to nullify them? Attacking fullbacks were all the rage 3 or 4 years ago. And then the world changed and suddenly you had 4 centre-backs playing at the back line and it changed again. And suddenly teams couldn't break City down because it was like, hang on a minute, how do we get past 4 defenders? And I do agree. I think there was a lot of talented players back then, but I think that's system-based. I think football players have become more robotic in this era.
Yeah.
I really, which is why I think the sort of the 90s and the noughties was the greatest era of Premier League football. I think it was a harder era.
Well, I think coaching's become more important. I think coaching, not just at the top level, throughout the whole leagues. I mean, if you look at some of the old football clips, man, like teams facing like top tier, and they just go to like Old Trafford and Anfield, and they just, honestly, it was crazy. And then these individual players had space and time, and you could see their flair. Whereas now you can't see that, man, because you know these bottom of the table teams, they just come to your stadium and park the bus on the edge of the box, and they're very good at it. Give them credit; they're very, very good at it. But it doesn't make for a very entertaining game.
No, I agree. I almost think there was an element, a sort of, how do I say this? There was a bit more free will in the older ways of doing things, and the new methods come in. It's the same. Listen, I'm a big fan of the UFC and MMA. If you look at the MMA fighters now and they come through, some of the fledglings, some of the brand new rookie fighters have better overall skills than some of the veterans of 20 years ago. It's because as kids, they're being trained this stuff. And it's going through that period where they're far more competent. And it makes some of the fights are amazing, but it makes a lot of the fights a little bit more technical and boring as opposed to some of the slugfest that you used to see. And I think that's happened to football a little bit. It's become far more technical and tactical rather than, go on, let's go out there and play our game. But look, viewers, give us